Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at another disturbing case with you. Andrea Yates is a woman who had severe mental health issues and struggles, all leading to a tragedy. This event shocked the nation and led to questions about mental health and the law. Our love and respect go out to all those who knew and loved the victims and all those affected by this case. In the early hours of June 20th, 2001, Houston, Texas, was rocked by a chilling confession. Yates, a 36-year-old mother, admitted to drowning her 5 children, Noah Yates, John Yates, Paul Yates, Luke Yates, and Mary Yates, in their bathtub. This horrific act brought to light the severe mental health issues she had been battling for years, including postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis, and schizophrenia. Yates was born in Houston, Texas on July 3, 1974. She was the youngest of 5 children in a family with a rich immigrant heritage. Her mother, Yuta Karen Kohler, was a German immigrant, and her father, Andrew Emmett Kennedy, was the son of Irish immigrants. Despite struggling with bulimia and depression during her teenage years, Yates excelled academically. She graduated as valedictorian of Milby High School in 1982, where she was also the captain of the swim team and an officer in the National Honor Society. Yates embarked on her journey in nursing by completing a pre-nursing program at the University of Houston and eventually graduating from the University of Texas Health Science Center in Houston. Her career as a registered nurse spanned from 1986 to 1994, during which she dedicated herself to her work at the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center, earning a reputation for her commitment and professionalism, all while silently grappling with her mental health challenges. In the warm summer of 1989, Yates's path crossed with Russell "Rusty" Yates at the picturesque Sunscape Apartments in bustling Houston. Russell, a talented engineer at NASA, quickly formed a deep connection with Yates, leading them to decide to move in together shortly thereafter. Their bond blossomed, culminating in marriage on April 17, 1993, marking the official start of their journey as husband and wife. As devout evangelical Christians, the Yates family held firm beliefs in the importance of expanding their family through childbirth, a decision that would later carry profound and tragic consequences. Their first child, Noah, entered the world in the chilly month of February 1994. Soon after, Russell's career took them to sunny Florida, where they settled into a cozy trailer in the town of Seminole. However, their time in Florida was brief, prompting a return to Houston and a move into a comfortable GMC motorhome. It was following the birth of their 4th child, the adorable Luke, that Yates's mental health began to show signs of severe deterioration. On June 20, 1999, Russell returned home to find his wife shaking and chewing on her fingers, a clear indication of the turmoil she was experiencing. The following day, Yates's struggles intensified as she attempted to take her own life by overdosing on pills, leading to her hospitalization and the prescription of antidepressants. Despite this intervention, Yates' mental state continued to decline, with further suicide attempts and multiple hospitalizations, ultimately culminating in a diagnosis of postpartum psychosis. The struggle with mental illness.
Rusty Yates returned home from work to a nightmare. His 5 children had been drowned in the bathtub by their own mother, his wife, Andrea Yates.
Yates's first psychiatrist, Dr. Eileen Starbranch, strongly advised against having more children, warning that it would likely trigger further psychotic episodes. Despite this, Yates and Russell conceived their 5th child, Mary, shortly after Yates's discharge from the hospital. In March 2000, Yates stopped taking her medication and gave birth to Mary 9 months later. For a time, she seemed to be coping well, but the death of her father on March 12, 2001, marked the beginning of a severe downward spiral. Yates ceased taking her medication, began mutilating herself, and read the Bible obsessively. Her condition worsened to the point of requiring immediate hospitalization. Under the care of Dr. Mohammed Saeed, Yates was treated and released multiple times. On May 3, 2001, she reached a near catatonic state and filled the bathtub, initially planning to drown her children, but ultimately deciding against it. Her psychiatrist, believing she was suicidal, had her hospitalized once more. Despite the continued treatment, Yates's mental health remained fragile. On June 22, 2001, Yates carried out the unthinkable, drowning her 5 children, Noah, John, Paul, Luke, and Mary, in the bathtub of their home. This tragic event forced the nation to confront the complexities of mental illness and the adequacy of legal frameworks like the Manhattan Rules and the irresistible impulse test for sanity. The Manhattan Rule states, "A person is not responsible for criminal conduct if, at the time of such conduct as a result of mental disease or defect, he lacks substantial capacity to appreciate the criminality, wrongfulness of his conduct, or to conform his conduct to the requirements of law." At the time of the murders, the family was living in the Houston suburb of Clear Lake City. Yates continued under Dr. Mohammed's care until June 20, 2001, when Russell left for work, leaving her alone to watch the children against Dr. Mohammed's instructions to supervise her around the clock. Russell's mother, Dora Yates, was scheduled to arrive an hour later to take over for Yates. In that hour, Yates drowned all 5 children, an act that shook the nation and sparked a profound reckoning with the challenges faced by individuals struggling with severe mental illness. She began her descent into madness by silencing her 3 youngest children, John, Paul, and Luke, laying their lifeless bodies in her bed. Next, she turned her attention to Mary, drowning her in the tub. The sound of the water was the last thing Mary heard. When Noah, the eldest, stumbled upon the horrific scene, he tried to flee, but his mother's grasp was too strong. She dragged him back, drowning him in the same tub where his sister had met her fate. The house was now a scene of unimaginable horror, with the bodies of 4 innocent children lying lifeless. Yates, still holding on to her sanity by a thread, called the police, her voice eerily calm as she requested an officer, but she refused to explain why. In a desperate attempt to complete her twisted plan, Yates called her husband Russell, her voice laced with a sense of urgency, telling him to come home immediately.
She then called 911 to report what she'd done.
You need an ambulance? No, I need a police officer. You have sent an ambulance.
Noah, John, Paul, Luke, and baby Mary, 7 years to just 6 months old. Her husband Rusty was working at the time. He returned to a scene of sheer terror.
Little did she know, her world was about to come crashing down around her. The sound of sirens pierced the air, and the nightmare that was unfolding would soon be exposed to the world. Yates confessed to drowning her 5 children, Noah, John, Paul, Luke, and Mary, in the bathtub of their home in Clear Lake City, Texas, on June 22, 2000. Before her second trial, she told Dr. Michael Wellner, a forensic psychiatrist, that she waited for Russell to leave for work before filling the bathtub, knowing he would prevent her from harming the children. After the murders, police found the family dog locked up. Russell informed Dr. Michael that it was normally allowed to roam free, suggesting Yates had caged it to prevent interference. Russell secured George Parnham, a family friend, as Yates's attorney. Despite expert testimony agreeing that Yates was psychotic, Texas law required proving she could not discern right from wrong to assert the insanity defense. In March 2002, a jury rejected the insanity defense, found Yates guilty, and sentenced her to life imprisonment with eligibility for parole in 40 years. The prosecution had sought the death penalty, but the jury refused. Yates's mental health had been fragile for years. Her first psychiatrist, Dr. Eileen, had strongly advised against having more children, warning that it would likely trigger further psychotic episodes. Despite this, Yates and Russell conceived their 5th child, Mary, shortly after Yates's discharge from the hospital. There was not much to be done about her case, as the results remained the same. The treatment she received, however, was ultimately unable to prevent the tragic events that unfolded on that fateful day. On January 6, 2005, a Texas Court of Appeals reversed Yates's convictions. California psychiatrist and prosecution witness Dr. Park Dietz admitted to giving materially false testimony, stating that an episode of Law and Order featured a woman who drowned her children and was acquitted because of insanity. Author Suzanne O'Malley, covering the trial, reported that no such episode existed. The appellate court unanimously held that the jury might have been influenced by Dietz's false testimony, necessitating a new trial. Yates again entered a plea of not guilty because of insanity on January 19, 2006. On February 1, 2006, she was granted release on bail on the condition that she be admitted to a mental health treatment facility. After 3 days of deliberations, Yates was found not guilty because of insanity in July 2006, as defined by the state of Texas. She was subsequently committed to the North Texas State Hospital Vernon campus, where she would receive treatment for her mental illness.
Even with a long and documented history of mental illness, including suicide attempts, she was charged and convicted of capital murder. But the verdict was later overturned, and in a subsequent trial, she was found not guilty by reason of insanity. She testified she believed her children's deaths would save their souls. Andrea Yates was committed to a Texas mental hospital where she remains today, now 52 years old.
In January 2007, Yates was moved to the Kerrville State Hospital, a low-security mental facility in Kerrville, Texas. This transfer was seen as a positive step in her recovery, as the Kerrville facility offered a less restrictive environment that would allow her to continue her rehabilitation and potentially reintegrate into society. The case of Andrea Yates has drawn significant public attention and sparked debates about mental illness, the insanity defense, and the treatment of individuals deemed not guilty because of insanity. Although the psychiatric experts for both the prosecution and the defense concurred that Yates was profoundly mentally ill, suffering from one of several psychotic disorders at the time she took the lives of her children, the state of Texas contended that she was, as per the legal definition, cognizant enough to recognize the rightness or wrongness of her actions despite her mental impairment. The prosecution further implied that a desire for spousal revenge was a motivating factor behind the killings, although the defense experts found no evidence to substantiate this assertion. The original jury believed that she was legally aware of her actions, yet they disagreed on the spousal revenge motive. Dr. Muhammad had advised Russell not to leave his wife unattended. However, in the weeks leading up to the drowning, Russell began leaving her alone with the children for brief periods, believing that this would enhance her independence, despite the instructions from her physicians. At a family gathering the weekend preceding the drowning, Russell announced that he had decided to leave Yates alone at home for an hour each morning and evening to prevent her from becoming entirely dependent on him and his mother for her maternal responsibilities. During a broadcast of Larry King Live, Brian Kennedy, a sibling of Yates, revealed that in 2001, while Russell was accompanying Yates to a specialized mental health facility, Russell had remarked to him that all people suffering from depression just needed a swift kick in the pants to feel better. Yates's mother was shocked and alarmed by Russell's proposed approach, noting that Yates wasn't stable enough to care for their children and had almost choked their daughter Mary while trying to force-feed her solid food. Author Susie Spencer and Suzanne documented that Dr. Muhammad, a respected medical professional, first learned that Yates wasn't under continuous supervision during a phone conversation with Russell, coinciding with the unfolding news of the tragic events. Yates's initial psychiatrist, Dr. Eileen, was surprised when Yates and Russell expressed a desire to stop her prescribed psychiatric medications to conceive another child, despite the doctor's explicit warnings against it. Russell insisted to the media that psychiatrists never informed him that Yates was psychotic or capable of harming their children. He claimed that had he known otherwise, they would never have considered having more children. However, Yates confided to her prison psychiatrist, Dr. Melissa Ferguson, that before their last child, she had expressed to Russell her reluctance to have sex due to warnings from Dr. Eileen that she might pose a danger to their children. Despite this, Russell, driven by his religious beliefs promoting procreation, convinced her that she could manage more children. Suzanne underscored Russell's persistent detachment from reality concerning expanding their family. Throughout the trial, Russell maintained his belief that Yates would be found not guilty and fantasized about having more children with her after successful treatment in a mental health facility. He explored options such as surrogate motherhood and adoption to improve their situation before coming to terms with reality. Russell argued that Dr. Muhammad, as a psychiatrist, had a duty to identify and appropriately treat Yates's psychosis. According to Russell, Dr. Muhammad initially declined to continue Yates's prescription of the antipsychotic Haldol, which had effectively treated her during her first breakdown in 1999. Despite Russell's insistence that Dr. Muhammad review her medical history to consider previous successful treatments, Dr. Muhammad reluctantly prescribed Haldol, but discontinued it shortly afterward, expressing concerns about potential side effects. Russell testified that despite Yates's condition appearing to worsen just 2 days before the tragic drowning, Dr. Muhammad refused to extend the use of Haldol or readmit her to the hospital. Russell further stated that Yates was discharged from her final hospitalization in May 2001 while still too unwell, mentioning that hospital staff were frustrated and embarrassed due to constraints imposed by their insurance provider, Blue Cross Blue Shield. Russell and his family contended that Yates's manifestation of psychotic behavior preceding the tragic events stemmed from a combination of antidepressants prescribed by Dr. Muhammad. They pointed to Dr. Moira Dolan's observation that the antidepressant Effexor had added homicidal ideation to its warning label in 2005, suggesting relevance to their argument. Yates had been prescribed 450 mg of Effexor, twice the recommended maximum dosage, for a full month before the incident. However, Dr. Lucy Puryear, a defense expert witness, countered that such dosage levels were not uncommon and asserted they did not contribute to Yates's psychotic state. Instead, Dr. Lucy emphasized that Yates's relapse into psychosis was more plausibly linked to the discontinuation of Haldol 2 weeks earlier. Numerous media reports circulated allegations suggesting that Michael Wareniecki, a traveling preacher whom Russell had encountered during his time at Auburn University, might share responsibility for the tragic deaths. However, both Wareniecki and Russell vehemently denied these claims. Russell clarified that their relationship with Wareniecki was not especially close and did not contribute to Yates's delusions. Wareniecki asserted that his interactions with the Yates family were intended to strengthen their marriage and promote spiritual growth, emphasizing themes of love within Christian teachings. Both men agreed that any purported link between Wareniecki's teachings and Yates's mental state was a fabricated story created by the media. During her time in prison, Yates disclosed that she had harbored thoughts of harming her children for an extended period, lasting approximately 2 years. She expressed a profound belief that her children viewed her as an inadequate mother and conveyed worries regarding her son's developmental progress. According to her discussions with the jail psychiatrist, Yates articulated a deep-seated fear that her children were destined for damnation, as she perceived them to be lacking in righteousness. She lamented that her parenting methods were insufficient to guide them away from what she perceived as an inevitable fate of perishing in the fires of hell.
Taking the children's lives.
What were you thinking about?
That I had to do it.
And what was the reason that you thought to do it the next morning?
Because Rusty would be at work.
In August 2004, Russell initiated divorce proceedings, asserting that he and Yates had not lived together as a married couple since the day of the tragic events. The legal dissolution of their marriage was finalized on March 17, 2005. Subsequently, Russell embarked on a romantic relationship with Laura Arnold, whom he wed on March 25, 2006. Together, they celebrated the birth of a son. However, their marital bond encountered challenges, leading to Laura filing for divorce in 2015, ultimately bringing an end to their relationship. Yates's tragic story serves as a stark reminder of the profound impact untreated mental illness can have on individuals, their families, and loved ones everywhere. It underscores the urgent need for society to prioritize mental health awareness, support systems, and effective treatment options with compassion and understanding. In light of the events surrounding Yates, society must adopt a more comprehensive approach to supporting individuals facing severe mental health challenges in the world today. This includes increasing awareness and education, improving access to mental health services, and integrating mental health into healthcare. By addressing these areas comprehensively, we can create a more compassionate and supportive environment where individuals struggling with severe mental health issues receive the care, understanding, and resources they need to thrive. What are your thoughts on how we can better support those facing these challenges, and how do you think society can better address issues like this one? Please share your ideas and thoughts in the comments below. Alright, thank you for watching. If you found this video informative and you want more videos like this one, please be sure to like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on more true crime videos, important cases, and issues. See you in the next one.